Welcome to the second part on the file browser. We're now going to look at some of the more advanced features in the file browser. Notice here we're by default viewing all the thumbnails. Under this menu it says Show Flagged and Unflagged. Well, we can select just certain images to look at. So let's just click on an image, hold down the Control key or the Command key on the Mac, and then just click to add, or click again to take away from the selection. So we want to add these images. Click the little flag at the top. Notice it appears down by the thumbnails. Just click anywhere in the file browser to turn off the selection. Now, if we just want to view these images that we've flagged, change the view to show flagged files. That reduces the clutter and makes it a lot easier to work on images, especially if you have a lot of images in one folder. Let's go back and view all the images again. The next thing we're going to look at is the metadata. Let's collapse these windows here. So the metadata window is open. Let's expand it a little bit so we can see what's going on. Then when we click on an image here, there's certain information. It's going to show the file properties of the actual image. That's related to the JPEG image in this case, which is an RB at 72 DPI or PPI. Shows the color space and the file size. Then we have the EXIF data. That's all the information from the camera that was captured at the time of shooting. And that tells us all the information we need to know on that image. It's very useful, shows us the f-stop, the exposure time, shutter speed, and it enables us to reproduce the same results over and over again. We can click on these little triangles here to collapse or expand these windows. We have other pieces of information here such as camera raw, but there's no information because this image here was not a camera raw. This was a camera raw image. So we can click there and view some camera raw information. We also have the history at the bottom. GPS is handy. You can actually set up your camera. Some cameras are set up with a global positioning system. Will actually tell you where the photograph was taken. Very sophisticated stuff. The next piece I want to show you is the information. Notice here that I've entered a description, the author, and a copyright. We can attach that to any image. Simply click on the image and then just click right here in this field and enter the information directly into the file browser. That photo was taken in 2003. To apply that information, click the little check mark down here at the bottom. And now this information is attached to this image, and wherever that image goes, this information will be there and the file information. This has many uses for copywriting, but not just that. You can add keywords, and it's useful if you're on assignment and you want to attach captions, for instance. Under the description, you could put a caption on there, and that caption will travel with the image, and it's not going to get lost or separated. Also, if we run some batch processing, things such as the web browser, under here you'll see the web photo gallery. You can use those captions. The captions can actually be created from these keywords. It's very useful. Let's click on this image here. Notice it shows a description, car wash. We can also use these descriptions and keywords for searching and finding images. All we do is click the little search icon at the top, choose the folder. We're in the Photoshop Secrets folder right now, and we're searching different criteria. In this case, we're going to search under description. It can contain or it cannot contain. We enter the text and we're going to say car. Click search, and there's our image. Now to view, we just go back here, back to recent, and that resets our preview. Now the next thing I'm going to show you to do is how to save a workspace. This particular workspace is set up for giving us information on our images. We can change it, double click on a preview. So we've got small thumbnails. Makes it easy to browse through a large collection pretty quickly. So in order to save this setting, we just go to Window, Workspace, Save Workspace, and we're going to call this one Small Thumbnails. And click Save. I want to replace it because I already have that setting, and I'll click Yes. I do want to replace it. Now, let's change it for a different setting. This is set up for a large preview. So maybe we have a smaller collection and we want to look at them a little larger and see the previews clearly. So we can call this one Large Preview. Let's save that. Window, Workspace, Save Workspace. Call that Large Preview. Click Save. Yes, we want to replace the old one. Now, to toggle backwards and forwards between these different settings, we don't have to click and drag things around anymore. We can now just go to Window, Workspace. Let's look at Small Thumbnails. We want to go back to the Large Preview, Workspace. Let's choose Large Preview. And it just goes right back there. Let's go back again. Window, Small Thumbnail. This just saves a lot of time and it's great. I'm sure you're familiar with the setting the desktop for your palettes and stuff, but it now works like that in a file browser. Saves a lot of time and organization. Last thing I want to show you here is how to do a batch rename, because a digital camera usually produces pretty cryptic names, in this case DSC, and it gives a number. It's very useful for the camera so it doesn't take two images with the same name, but it's very difficult for us when we're looking for images later on. It doesn't mean a lot to us. We can change these to meaningful names simply by going to the Automate menu, and notice that there are a lot of features here for different automated tasks to do with photography. In this case, we're going to hit the Batch Rename. We have two choices at the top. Rename in same folder, which will just overwrite the same images with different names, or move to a new folder, and we can choose a destination. Now be warned, if you move it to a new folder, you are not copying the images. You are taking these images and you will move them and rename them. So it's not going to make a copy. The next thing we want to do is we want to change the name. Right now we have DSC, which means not a lot. So let's change this to Photoshop CD. The next option, we want to add a serial number. This will incrementally give it new name. Photoshop CD 01. And then it will go 02, 03, etc. Notice that it's a little hard to see that, so we can put a little underscore at the end here. And that'll make the names a little easier to follow. We don't have to use serial numbers. There's many other options here. But in this case, I think it's a very wise thing to do. Then the file extension. No matter what options you add there, make sure the file extension is the very last one on the list. Because if it isn't, the files will not be able to be opened because it will change the names of these extensions. It gets very confusing. So make the extension the end, and that'll call it a JPEG or a RAW or whatever format it's in. Photoshop will know and retain that format. Finally, the starting serial number. By default, we're going to set it at 1, and then the numbering will start at 1. But say later on, we wanted to process some more images. This time we process, say, 50 images. Maybe later on we want to process another 50. We could change it to 51. So it would start naming directly after that and makes things a lot easier to organize. Okay, once you've got all these options set, just click OK. and it should rename these files. In this case, I only had one file selected, so it only renamed that one file. If I was to select a whole row, it would rename that row. Or if I was to click outside and have none selected, this will rename the entire folder. Let's do that right now. Batch rename. The previous settings are retained. Click OK. And notice these images are all renamed. Let's change the view to a large thumbnail so we can see these names a little clearer. And notice there's a raw image, there's a JPEG image, and they're all renamed. That saves a lot of time and makes it very easy to find your images later on, especially if you save them on CD or something like that. So that's another useful feature using the file browser in Photoshop CS. Just be warned, when you batch rename, this is not undoable. Once you rename these files, it will rename the actual files on your hard drive. So have fun in the file browser, and I know this will be a very useful utility.